The worst case scenario has been avoided in Florida as Hurricane Milton makes its way back out to sea. But the wide-scale spread of destruction is startling, and Milton will likely leave a lasting mark on survivors who lost everything.
It was devastating. To the point, everything from the attic went to flying around my house.
At least 10 deaths have been confirmed. 5 of those include people killed by tornadoes created by the storm. Emergency workers are now focusing on search and rescue efforts rather than cleanup. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office shared this video of its team rescuing a 14-year-old boy from floodwaters as he was clinging to debris. U.S. President Joe Biden says that his administration is ready to provide Florida with whatever resources it needs in the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. And he said even though the storm has passed, people in Florida should still be cautious.
Too early to know the full account of the damage, though. But we know life-saving measures did make a difference. More than 80,000 people followed orders to safely shelter last night. And we've had search and rescue teams at the ready for any calls for help this morning. There's still very dangerous conditions in the state, and people should wait to be given all clear by their leaders before they go out. We know from previous hurricanes that it's often the case that more lives are lost the days following the storm than actually during the storm itself.
Okay, let's turn to the CBC's Katie Simpson, who's part of our team on the ground there. She's in Palmetto, Florida right now. That's a community near Sarasota on the state's Gulf Coast. Katie, let's talk about what you're seeing there and the level of destruction.
This is a community that took a pretty brutal hit here, and you can see behind me, I'm actually standing in front of a family-owned Mexican restaurant. We spoke with the owners earlier today. They're trying to have a positive attitude about things. Everyone is accounted for. Everyone is safe here. There's a lot of damage to the roof, but you can see from that level of destruction just how powerful those Category 3 hurricane winds can be, just turning a roof into what looks like a pile of metal spaghetti. Someone once described metal debris like that to me once, and every time you see it in person at a huge disaster like this, it's something that always just kind of stands out. This community was hit pretty hard by Milton, but what's making the whole situation worse here specifically is that less than 2 weeks ago, they were hit incredibly hard by Hurricane Helene. There was flooding, there was high winds. Quite a few homes in this community were really heavily damaged, and many of them had been boarded up. Many of them had started to be gutted, or some of them had even started with repairs, that early stage of repairs. But when Milton came in and gave that second sort of gut punch to this community, it really unleashed a new level of devastation. Questions about being able to rebuild, questions about insurance. We did speak with some people in one of the neighborhoods around here, and really you can hear from their answers, they're really exhausted, overwhelmed, and really worried.
I guess the only thing I could say is that
It's okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. It is emotional.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're feeling.
Sad. I mean, these guys here have been through a lot. We'll get better. We'll rebuild. They'll rebuild. Like I said, they're strong people, strong character in this neighborhood.
It's just really hard watching everybody go through it. We just have trees. Well, I've lived here my whole life, so we've dealt with it, but nothing like this. No, we're gonna move forward. We're gonna get through this. We will survive. We will see another day.
Remember, Travis, this is just one story from one community that is dealing with the aftermath. When you take a step back and look at the bigger picture here in Florida, there are still more than 2 million people who are without power at this point. Thousands of power workers have actually been moved into this area. They came in ahead of the storm to try to be able to work as quickly as possible to make sure that the power restoration process could go as fast and as safely as possible. It's a very dangerous operation, and we've seen those first responders out there making those water rescues. We saw earlier a 14-year-old boy who was in floodwaters up to his shoulders, who was clinging to debris, and first responders went in and were able to save him. There was an assisted living facility where more than 100 seniors had to be rescued because unexpectedly their nursing home was flooded, and it filled some of the units there while people were sleeping. So those are the kinds of stories that are coming out of this. After this, even though Milton was not as strong as expected, that the devastation is still very apparent.
Yeah, some of these pictures are absolutely astounding. And we know, you're talking about the power situation. We know some Canadian crews have gone down to help with the efforts. Some were there for Helene and now have pivoted to help with Milton. Let's talk about the rebuilding and where things really go from here, Katie.
Yeah, priority number one is, of course, public safety. And so the emphasis right now is all about getting to anyone who might need help, getting to anyone who's in danger. That is something that emergency crews are working on. One thing that we should probably note, Travis, is there seems to be a recognition from federal officials that people largely, not everybody, but largely listen to the warnings to get out. More than 80,000 people stayed at government-run shelters overnight last night. That's a really high uptake and doesn't account for the people who left and didn't go to government-run shelters. So the messaging on this storm seems to largely have resonated. But going forward, the big focus, making sure people are safe, getting those power lines back up and getting power service restored. And then, of course, it's the rebuilding process, which is going to be incredibly difficult, especially in a climate where these storms continue to get stronger, continue to have enormous impacts. And you have to ask questions about, is insurance going to be a realistic option for some of these people? Will insurance companies want to insure people in these communities? These are problems that are gripping people in Florida, and obviously with this storm and hurricane season not being over just yet, those are the kinds of concerns that are weighing on the people here.
Indeed. Okay, Katie Simpson, who braved the storm yesterday for us and is surveying the damage tonight. Thank you for that. CBC's Katie Simpson in Palmetto, Florida.
Thanks.
All right, let's turn now to where the heart of the storm really hit. And we're joined by Liz Alpert. She is the mayor of Sarasota, Florida, and she joins me from her city tonight. Mayor, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on tonight.
We just heard from Katie there, what is going on in that community, which is close to Sarasota. Tell me a little bit about the wider situation in Sarasota right now and what the priority is right now for you as mayor.
Well, certainly the priority always is to keep all our residents safe. And as the reporter mentioned, I believe most of the people actually listened to the evacuation orders and left. We didn't have people talking about, I'm going to ride out the storm or I'm going to have a hurricane party. People took this seriously after Helene a couple of weeks ago, and they evacuated. So we didn't have to, unbelievably, in the city of Sarasota, we didn't even have one emergency call, which tells me people paid attention and got to a safe place. So that was really, really good news. But the storm itself was pretty horrific in terms of those high winds are very, very scary as you're experiencing them. I live in a high rise and I'm on the 9th floor, and I was convinced my building was swaying back and forth. And it was dark, so lots of loud crashes all around me and not knowing what they were. And everybody experienced the same kind of thing because the power went out, so we didn't have any kind of street lights or anything to illuminate what was going on outside. Fortunately, we didn't get the storm surge that was expected. We did get one, but not nearly as much as we got in Helene. So that was the good news. In Helene, we got the water and not a lot of wind, and this time there was a lot of wind and not as much water.
And as we speak to you, we're looking at pictures from last night from downtown Sarasota. Sarasota, I've been there multiple times. It's an absolutely gorgeous city. Tell me the scale of destruction that you're dealing with right now, and if you'd have a chance to get out and about and tour some of the city.
Yes, when you go and drive around and look at what's happened, the number of trees that are down or branches stripped from the trees is just almost unbelievable. It's like a bomb went off, and so it's going to take a lot to get all of that cleaned up. It's going to take a lot to replace all those trees. Trees don't grow overnight, so it's going to change the landscape for the near term with that kind of destruction. There were awnings down. We have. I look across the street at a park, and we have a few extra boats in the park that aren't supposed to be there. So it's kind of a little bit everywhere. And our crews are out. They've been out since before dawn, cleaning up, trying to get the major roadways open because there are giant trees across the road. So it wasn't like a few limbs here and there. And they've pretty much accomplished that. And it's going to take the next few weeks to not only get rid of this debris, but the debris from Helene as well. So we've got our job cut out for us for the next several weeks or months, and but we'll do it, and we'll come back stronger and even more beautiful.
Mayor, let me ask you, in the lead up to Milton hitting the Florida coast, as we were talking about the impacts of the storm, there was a lot of mis and disinformation that was out there spreading. There still is. And some of that just, really online, some of it coming from politicians. I wonder if you want to weigh in on the effect that disinformation, that misinformation can have, especially when, you're dealing with an emergency situation?
Yeah, when you're dealing with an emergency situation, you don't want to spread misinformation that will frighten people. And I'm assuming you're talking about the idea that FEMA would not have the money to, provide disaster relief to people after the storm. I mean, that's a very scary prospect. I mean, even the cities and the counties, we depend on FEMA reimbursements for all of the money that we're expending right now to prepare for the storm, to clean up after the storm, and then, to have our residents worry that nobody's going to be there to help afterwards, I think is a shame. And I can say personally, President Biden called me personally. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg called me personally, they all offered help, and the Vice President called me personally. Plus, their offices reached out to us to make sure that we knew we could get what we needed. And FEMA has been great, and actually everybody has been helping to make sure that we know that they have our back, and we're going to get through it, and the government will give us what we need to have to help everyone recover.
As I said, Mayor, I have been to your city. It is beautiful. I know a lot of Canadians have been down to Sarasota and to Florida and spent some time there. And we wish you the best of luck as you go through what will be a very difficult process in the weeks ahead. That is Liz Alpert. She is the mayor of Sarasota, Florida.
Thank you so much.
Joining us from Sarasota tonight.